Potato Head. Another company, I believe it's Hasbro, I might be wrong. Another company that decided to change the name of Mr. Potato Head to just Potato Head. They're bringing attention to a toy that doesn't sell anymore, okay? They want people to buy the toy. It's the company that makes Mr. Potato Head is the ones that said it. It's not cancel culture. It's the company that Warner Brothers, who produces Pepe Le Pew 40 years ago, and that cartoon is not even in production and doesn't make any money. No one cares about the cartoon. If people are saying that, the cartoon character seems a bit rapey, then they can cancel that cartoon easily because it doesn't matter financially. It's not cancel culture. It's the company that produces these things that are making the decision. That's not being canceled by cancel culture. Being canceled by cancel culture is when the trolls online get a hold of you and demand that you're fired or that we get rid of you. That's cancel culture. If your boss fires you, that's not cancel culture. You can't blame it on cancel culture unless he's firing you because someone else said that you were being politically incorrect and that, they get nervous about it. But if they're firing you because you're not making them any money and you haven't made any money in 30 years, that is not cancel culture. So I just wanted to say something about the cancel culture because I'm against cancel culture. Cancel culture is stupid. But, we let cancel culture happen. Celebrities let these things happen by apologizing every 15 minutes for something stupid they said or something that happened 10 years ago. Stop it. You're bringing something to our attention that we didn't even know you did or said. Ignore the cancel culture list unless it comes down to you losing your job. If it's not coming down to that, then let them say what they want. It'll go away. That actually will go away in a couple of days. And with that, we're going to go to break. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
You're listening to a man who's so sexy it's completely ridiculous. Mr. Anthony Scott Dover. Yeah.
All right. There's one other thing that I wanted to say now that I've spoke my piece on cancel culture, because I hate cancel culture and think it's a dumb thing that's happening in our society as much as the next guy. But when people get things confused, then something needs to be said. And I'm barely the person to say it because, it's not, like I said, I don't have the most popular podcast, and I'm not even doing video with my podcast yet. I'll start doing video with it here soon, but I'm not even doing video. So that, again, is not going to make my podcast the one that people hear. Not just yet, anyway. Something else I wanted to touch on, and that is, it was mentioned to me that black people are considered 3/5 of a person by the same person who does the podcast. But he told me this face to face. I didn't hear this on his podcast. I may have heard it on there too, but he told me this face to face that we're considered 3/5 of a person, and I didn't get to conversate with him because he was in a hurry. We were at work, and he just had a few minutes, and we were talking about something, and he said that. So I wanted to touch on that for a second. Black people were considered to be 3/5 of a person at one time. He said that's still on the books. It might still be on the books, but it doesn't mean that it applies now. And here's why. The reason black people were considered 3/5 of a person is because the Southerners, slave owners, wanted more representation in Congress, in the Senate. So they were saying, well, we got more people in the South because we also have slaves that need to be represented. And so we can count them as 3/5 of a person. That's where that came from. So they made that a law that black people are 3/5 of a person. Now, as big as racism is in this country still today, black people are no longer considered to be 3/5 of a person. It might be a law that's still on the books, but that was for representation in Congress. Okay? If you can vote and your vote counts the same as anyone else's, which it does, some people say, oh, your votes don't count. Those are conspiracy theorists. But some people say, listen, this is how I know your votes count. Personally, I'm going to give you my personal opinion about voting. This is how I know your votes count. If it didn't, they wouldn't be trying so hard to get votes. If your votes didn't matter, these politicians wouldn't be trying so hard to get your vote. They wouldn't be fighting so hard to say your votes. There was voter fraud in the last election. Donald Trump, the evil dummy, he would not have been fighting so hard if your votes don't count. That's how you can tell if you have a theory, you can tell by the way things are transpiring, whether it's true or not. Okay? If somebody tells me that we're going to have a geostorm and it doesn't happen, I know that they didn't know what they were talking about. But as far as voting goes, you're not 3/5 of a person or considered to be 3/5 of a person if you go to the ballot box and your vote counts the same as any other person who is whole person. So that law that black people were 3/5 of a person, now it doesn't apply anymore. It's something that the slave owners dreamed up so that they could get more representation in Congress counting their slaves. Okay? They didn't think the Northerners would go for just saying, well, we got more people because we got slaves. So they said, how about if we just count the slaves as 3/5 of a person instead of a whole person? Now, that was mentioned to me that that's on the books, but it doesn't apply to you now. So that's why that law exists, but it doesn't apply. You're treated, well, I won't say you're treated fairly, because this is why Georgia just passed the law trying to make it harder for people who might vote for Democrats to vote, because they don't want you to vote, because your vote counts as one. You go and vote, your vote counts just the same as anyone else. That's why they don't want you to vote. They just passed a law in Georgia trying to dissuade people from voting. They made it illegal to give someone standing in a line waiting to vote. They made it illegal to give them food or water. So there you have the 3/5 of a person argument. I would love to agree that, this is a law that's on the books that means something, but it doesn't. Not anymore. Trust me, if it did, I would just be like, yeah, that's some bullshit. But it doesn't really apply. It was before black people were even allowed to vote, and before women were even allowed to vote, for that matter. They were just trying to get representation. And so they didn't want to say slaves are a whole person. That's where that came from. It might still be on the books, but it does not apply. Okay? There's a lot of other things going on that you could say, this is wrong, that's wrong. There's a lot of stuff wrong in our society, but that's not one of them, actually. Moving on. Let's slip in a little sports. I want to slip in a little sporting news because the Final Four just passed. And I watched a game. I actually watched the game, even though teams that I wanted to win are not playing. Both teams. I'm a North Carolina fan to the heart, but since I'm from Ohio, I root for the Buckeyes as well. And the Buckeyes lost in the very first round of the NCAA tournament, March Madness is what they call it, even though it is April now. It ends in April. The best part of it comes in April. Go figure. They might want to, but it starts in March. A lot of the basketball season is played in March, and the beginning of the tournament starts in March. But the UCLA Bruins, blue blood, they were saying earlier in the media that there's no blue bloods in this tournament. Yeah, UCLA's in it. They were blue blood. They made it to the Final Four, and it took a last-second three by Gonzaga to put UCLA out of the tournament, actually. The Zags, as they have been nicknamed, Gonzaga. I think they're the Gonzaga Bulldogs, actually, but people call them the Zags because they're Gonzaga. Their name is Gonzaga, the university. But anyway, a last-second three by Gonzaga put UCLA out of the tournament, and that was the Final Four matchup. The other side of the bracket had Baylor and Houston. Remember Houston, that university was very popular from Five Slamma Jamma, Clyde Drexler, Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon, Larry Mishaw, and so forth and so on. They had good teams back in the late 80s or mid 80s. Back in the 80s, they had great teams. Those guys went on to be Hall of Famers in pros. Hakeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler also helped. They also helped Houston Rockets win a championship. So Houston was beaten by Baylor in the Final Four game, and Gonzaga beat UCLA. So we're going to have a college basketball championship game this year. Didn't have that last year. They canceled the tournament last year. The Dayton Flyers they were ranked number 3 in the nation. They had a very good chance of going on and winning. So it still irritates me that they didn't have no tournament last year because of COVID. But this year they've had the tournament. They've had 2 teams advance, and we're going to have a championship game in college basketball on Monday night. So, congratulations, Gonzaga and Baylor. I hope Baylor wins for some reason. I don't know why I'm rooting against Gonzaga. I think maybe it's because they're undefeated, and I don't want to see a team to go undefeated. Not unless it's Ohio State or North Carolina. North Carolina's coach, their Hall of Fame coach, who's won the national championship 3 times since he's been at North Carolina. He didn't win it at all when he was coach at Kansas. He had some really good teams at Kansas, but then he came over to North Carolina. They won the national championship 3 times. He's retiring. Mr. Roy Williams is retiring. He's decided to hang it up and call it a day. So that's unfortunate for Carolina, and Carolina fans like myself don't want to see Roy Williams retire because you don't know who'll be the next coach, and if they'll continue with their tradition of winning the national championship every now and then. You don't know. They won it 3 times before Roy Williams, and now they've won it 6 times. So after Roy Williams joined, or became the head coach of North Carolina, they won the national championship 3 times. So as a North Carolina basketball fan, I'm kind of leery when the Hall of Fame coach retires. I was leery when Dean Smith retired because it took a while before they got another coach in there who was able to do the job. And now that coach is retiring as well. So